Commander Vexistar stood before the massive viewing screen on the bridge of his flagship. The stars looked cold and distant as always, but today they held promise. His red eyes studied the star charts that glowed in front of him. For months, his scouts had been mapping the outer regions of what the galaxy called the Dead Zone. "Sir, the reports are ready," said his advisor Quinra. She moved her forearms with practiced grace as she handed him the data pad. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer under the bridge lights. Vextar took the pad and read through the information. His excitement grew with each line. There, in a small corner of space that most civilizations avoided, sat a perfect target. A blue and green world called Earth. The planet had no space fleets, no orbital weapons, no energy shields protecting it from attack. "This cannot be right," Vextar said. He looked at the numbers again. A world with billions of inhabitants, and they have almost no defenses? "The data is correct, sir," Quinra replied. "Our long-range scanners show only one small space station. Their ships barely leave their atmosphere. Most of their military forces are on the planet's surface, fighting each other." Vextar laughed. It was a sound like grinding metal. In the past 10 years, his fleet had conquered 12 star systems. Each victory had been harder than the last. The Andromedans had put up a fierce fight. The Centauri coalition had used weapons that nearly destroyed half his ships. But this Earth looked like a gift from the void itself. "Why has no one claimed this world before?" he asked. Quinra's expression grew puzzled. "That is strange, sir. The Dead Zone has been avoided for centuries. Most species refuse to enter this region of space. When we ask why, they just say it is forbidden. But our scans show no dangers, no hidden weapons, no ancient guardians. Thousands of light years away, Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his office deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The walls around him were thick concrete and steel, built to survive nuclear war. But Jake was not thinking about war. He was reading reports from satellites and space telescopes, just like he did every morning. "Anything interesting today?" asked Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez as she brought him his coffee. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that missed nothing. "Same as always," Jake said with a smile. "The universe is quiet. No one is paying attention to our little corner of space." Amy looked at the screens showing Earth's orbital space. A few communication satellites drifted in their paths. The International Space Station looked tiny against the black of space. To anyone watching from far away, Earth would look completely helpless. "Sir, do you ever wonder why?" Amy asked. "I mean, we have resources. Water, metals, a good climate. Why doesn't anyone try to take what we have?" Jake's smile became wider, but there was something cold in his eyes. "Maybe they're just not interested in what we're selling." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Vextar was making plans. He called his officers to the war room. The chamber was dark except for the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Around the table sat his best commanders, each one a veteran of many battles. "Gentlemen," Vextar began, "we have found our next target, a world rich in resources with a large population perfect for slave labor. Best of all, they have no way to stop us." Captain Corden, his youngest officer, studied the display. "Sir, what about their nuclear weapons?" Our scouts detected several 1,000 warheads. "Primitive chemical rockets." Vextar waved dismissively. "They cannot even reach their own moon reliably. Against our shields and armor, their weapons might as well be rocks and sticks." The other officers murmured agreement. They had seen civilizations with far better technology fall before their might. Energy weapons that could cut through mountains. Force fields that could stop entire fleets. Artificial intelligence systems that controlled whole star systems. All had fallen to Zephyrian power. "When do we attack?" asked Captain Morgeth, his oldest and most experienced officer. "Soon," Vextar replied. "First we send scouts. 3 ships will approach their system and study their defenses. Then we bring the full fleet. 200 ships should be more than enough to crush any resistance." In Atlanta, Georgia, Dr. Lisa Grant worked late in her laboratory. She was alone except for the hum of machines and the soft glow of computer screens. The samples she studied came from all over the world. Viruses from the Amazon rainforest, bacteria from deep ocean trenches, microorganisms from polar ice that had been frozen for millions of years. Her phone buzzed. A text from her colleague, Dr. Kevin Blake, at the Antarctic Research Station. "Lisa, you need to see these readings. The ice samples are showing activity. Something is waking up down here." Lisa frowned as she read the message. For the past month, research stations around the world had reported similar things. Ancient microorganisms becoming active. Virus samples that seemed to change overnight. It was as if the planet's smallest life forms were preparing for something. She typed back quickly. "Send me the data. I'll run tests here." As she worked, Lisa felt a strange sensation. It was like being watched, but she was alone in the lab. She looked around at her samples, at the thousands of tiny life forms she studied. Every day, for just a moment, she could have sworn they were looking back at her. Commander Vextar stood on his bridge and gave the order that would seal his fate. "Send the scout ships to Earth. 3 vessels, minimal crew. They will land on the surface and gather intelligence about human capabilities." "Yes, sir," replied Captain Corden. "The scouts will launch within the hour." As the 3 small ships left the main fleet, Vextar felt the satisfaction of a hunter who has found easy prey. Soon, Earth would be another jewel in the Zephyrian Empire. The humans would serve as slaves, their world would be stripped of resources, and his name would be remembered as the conqueror of the mysterious Dead Zone. He had no way of knowing that. Earth had been waiting for this moment for billions of years. The planet had been preparing its defenses since life first crawled from the primordial oceans. Every virus, every bacteria, every microscopic organism had been shaped by endless cycles of evolution and survival. Earth looked defenseless because it had never needed conventional weapons. The planet itself was the weapon, and it was about to show the galaxy why the Dead Zone existed, why no species dared approach the small blue world, why those who tried simply disappeared without a trace. The hunt was about to begin, but the predator and prey were not what they seemed. Captain Corden watched the blue planet grow larger on his ship's viewing screen. Earth looked peaceful from space. White clouds swirled over green continents and blue oceans. It was beautiful, but beauty meant nothing to a warrior of the Zephyrian Empire. "Sir, we are approaching the outer edge of their atmosphere," reported his navigator. "No signs of defensive satellites or orbital weapons." "Good," Corden said. "Maintain stealth mode. We will observe their capabilities before making contact." The 3 scout ships moved through space like shadows. Their advanced technology made them invisible to Earth's primitive radar systems, or so they thought. Deep inside Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the approaching vessels on screens that should not have been able to detect them. 3 ships, roughly the size of our destroyers, he said to Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. "They think they're invisible." Amy looked at the display showing the alien craft. "Should we scramble fighters? Alert the other bases?" Jake shook his head slowly. "No need. Send a message to Carol Peterson at NASA. Tell her we have visitors. She'll know what to do." At NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Director Carol Peterson received the message with no surprise. She had been expecting this call for months. The signs had been there for anyone who knew how to read them. Increased activity in the planet's biological systems. Strange readings from research stations worldwide. Earth was preparing itself. "Get me General Ryan Cooper at the Pentagon," she said to her assistant. "Tell him the scouts have arrived." The Zephyrian ships landed in the Nevada desert, far from any major cities. Captain Corden chose the location because it looked empty and safe. The dry landscape stretched for miles in every direction. No signs of human civilization except for a few old roads cutting through the sand. "Deploy the landing party," Corden ordered. "Full environmental suits. We know nothing about their atmosphere or biological agents." 12 Zephyrian soldiers stepped onto Earth's surface. Their armor was the best their civilization could produce, sealed against any known toxin, radiation, or biological threat. They had used similar suits to conquer worlds with poison atmospheres and deadly native life forms. Within an hour, a convoy of vehicles approached their landing site. Dust clouds rose behind the trucks as they drove across the desert. Captain Corden watched through his ship's sensors as the humans got out of their vehicles. Only 12 of them, he said to his second-in-command. No heavy weapons, they look almost defenseless. The humans were led by a man in military uniform. Colonel Steve Parker walked forward with his hands empty, showing he carried no weapons. Behind him came a woman in a white lab coat. Dr. Helen Davis carried a small device that looked like a medical scanner. "Greetings," Colonel Parker called out in English. "We come in peace. We would like to speak with you." Captain Corden activated his translation device. The words came through clearly in his own language. He stepped forward, confident in his superior technology and firepower. "I am Captain Corden of the Zephyrian Empire," he announced. "You will surrender your world to us. Resistance is futile." Colonel Parker smiled. It was not the reaction Corden had expected. "We're not here to surrender. We're here to welcome you to Earth." Dr. Davis stepped forward with her scanner. "Captain, if I may ask, what is your homeworld like? What kind of atmosphere do you breathe? What diseases are common among your people?" The questions puzzled Corden. Why would a defeated enemy ask about Zephyrian biology? "Why do you want to know?" "Scientific curiosity," Dr. Davis replied. "We find other life forms fascinating. How does your immune system work? What kind of microorganisms live in your bodies?" One of Corden's soldiers whispered to him through the communication system. "Sir, my suit's air recycler is showing anomalies. The filters are working harder than they should." Corden ignored the report. Primitive planets often had strange atmospheric conditions. "You will take us to your leaders," he demanded. "We will discuss terms of surrender." "Of course," Colonel Parker said. "But first, you must be tired after your long journey. Would you like some refreshments? Water? Food?" The offer surprised Corden. Conquered peoples usually begged for mercy or tried to fight. They did not offer hospitality to their conquerors. But his soldiers were reporting problems with their equipment. Their water recyclers were producing liquid with a strange taste. Their food processors were giving error messages. "We accept your offer," Corden said finally. Dr. Davis smiled and nodded to her team. They brought forward bottles of clear water and packages of what looked like protein bars. "Completely safe," she assured them. "We've tested everything." As the Zephyrians consumed the human food and water, Dr. Davis made notes on her scanner. She was recording everything: their biological signatures, their metabolic processes, the way their bodies processed nutrients, information that would be very useful in the coming hours. "Captain," another soldier reported privately, "my suit's life support is showing multiple failures. The backup systems are compensating, but something is wrong." Corden felt the first stirrings of concern. His own suit was beginning to show warning lights. The air tasted different, even through the filters. The water they had been given seemed to be causing digestive problems. "Dr. Davis," he said, "what is in this food?" "Nothing harmful," she replied truthfully. "Just normal Earth nutrients. Water, proteins, carbohydrates, the same things humans eat every day." But Dr. Davis did not mention that Earth's definition of normal was very different from what other worlds considered safe. Every molecule of water contained traces of countless microorganisms. Every protein carried the genetic signatures of life forms that had evolved over billions of years. Earth's food was perfectly safe for humans because humans had evolved alongside these organisms. For aliens, it was something else entirely. "Sir," his communications officer called from the ship, "we're losing contact with the main fleet. Our equipment is malfunctioning." Corden tried to remain calm, but fear was growing in his chest. Nothing was working as it should. Their superior technology was failing. Their weapons were giving error messages. Their environmental suits were struggling to maintain life support. Colonel Parker seemed to notice his distress. "Is everything all right, Captain? You look concerned." "Our equipment is experiencing difficulties," Corden admitted. "That's unfortunate," Dr. Davis said, still taking notes. "Earth's environment can be challenging for visitors. So many variables to consider: atmospheric pressure, electromagnetic fields, biological factors." She paused and looked directly at Corden. "Tell me, Captain, in all your conquests, have you ever encountered a world where the planet itself fought back?" Corden did not understand the question, but something in her tone made his blood run cold. Around him, his soldiers were reporting more equipment failures. Their suits were no longer maintaining proper atmosphere. Their weapons were powering down. Their communication systems were going offline one by one. "What is happening to us?" he asked. Dr. Davis smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "You're experiencing Earth, Captain. The real Earth. Not the defenseless world you thought you were conquering, but the living, breathing, fighting organism that has been perfecting its defenses for 4 billion years." Captain Corden realized with growing horror that they had made a terrible mistake. Earth was not undefended. It was the most dangerous place in the galaxy, and they had walked right into its trap. Admiral Thexmore stood in the command center of his massive battleship. Around him, hundreds of smaller vessels filled the space near Earth's moon. The greatest invasion fleet in Zephyrian history had arrived, and their target looked as helpless as ever. "Sir, we have lost contact with Captain Corden's scout team," reported his communications officer. "Their last transmission was 3 days ago." "Irrelevant," Thexmore said with a wave of his hand. 3 small ships against an entire world. They were probably discovered and destroyed. It changes nothing. The Admiral studied the tactical display, showing Earth. 215 warships surrounded the small planet. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a continent. Each crew member was a seasoned warrior who had fought across the galaxy. This would be the easiest conquest in their history. "Begin the attack," Thexmore ordered. "Target their major population centers first. We will break their spirit quickly." In Washington, D.C., President Michelle Ford sat in the Oval Office with her closest advisors. Outside the windows, the city looked normal. People walked to work. Cars moved through traffic. Children played in parks. No one seemed worried about the alien fleet that had just arrived. "Madam President," said Secretary of Defense Paul Bennett, "our satellites show the enemy ships are moving into attack positions. They will be in range within 6 hours." President Ford nodded calmly. "Have we heard from Dr. Grant's team?" "Yes, ma'am," replied General Chris Johnson. "She reports that Earth's biological systems are fully active. The planet is ready." The president turned to look out the window again. "Then we wait, and we trust in our world's natural defenses." "Secretary," Bennett looked confused. "Ma'am, with respect, how can biological defenses stop a space fleet?" President Ford smiled. "Paul, you're thinking like a human. Earth doesn't think like humans, it thinks like Earth." High above the planet, the Zephyrian fleet began its descent. Admiral Thexmore watched with satisfaction as his ships moved into position, their weapons powered up, ready to rain destruction on the world below. "Sir," called his sensor operator, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the planet's surface." "What kind of readings?" "Electromagnetic activity, biological, signatures. It's like the entire planet is active." Thexmore frowned. "Explain." "I don't know how to explain it, sir. The readings don't match anything in our databases. It's as if every living thing on the planet is connected somehow." The Admiral dismissed the report. Primitive worlds often had strange energy patterns. What mattered was firepower, and he had more than enough of that. "Continue the attack," he ordered. The first wave of Zephyrian ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Their hulls glowed red-hot as they pushed through the air toward their targets. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, major cities that would serve as examples to the rest of humanity. But as the ships descended, strange things began to happen. Warning lights appeared on control panels. Computer systems started giving error messages. Life support systems began working overtime to filter the air. "Admiral," reported Captain Veltar from the lead attack ship, "we're experiencing equipment malfunctions. Multiple systems are showing failures." "Impossible," Thexmore replied. "Our technology is superior to anything on this world." "Sir, my environmental systems are detecting biological agents in the atmosphere. Millions of different types. They seem to be adapting to our presence." Thexmore felt the first touch of doubt. "Adapting how?" "The organisms are changing, sir, evolving in real time. Our filters can't keep up with the mutations." In her laboratory in Switzerland, Dr. Lisa Grant watched the data streaming in from monitoring stations around the world. Her screens showed biological activity unlike anything ever recorded. Every microorganism on the planet was responding to the alien presence. "Dr. Thompson," she said into her communication device, "are you seeing this data from Cambridge?" Dr. Emma Thompson's voice crackled through the speaker from England. "It's incredible, Lisa. The viruses are rewriting their own genetic code. They're creating new forms specifically designed to target the alien biology." Dr. Rodriguez in Paris is reporting the same thing, Lisa said. "The planet's biosphere is treating the invasion like an infection, and it's producing antibodies." Back in space, more Zephyrian ships were running into problems. Their crews were becoming sick with symptoms no military doctor had ever seen. Breathing became difficult. Skin began to change color. Equipment that had worked perfectly for decades was shutting down. "Admiral," Captain Veltar's voice was now weak and strained. "Request permission to abort the attack. My crew is dying, sir. Something is killing us, and we don't know what." Admiral Thexmore looked at his tactical display. Red warning lights were appearing on ship after ship. His mighty fleet was being destroyed, but not by weapons, not by enemy, fighters or defensive systems. Something else was attacking them, something invisible and unstoppable. "All ships, fall back to safe distance," he ordered. "Medical teams, analyze the threat. Engineering teams, find out why our systems are failing." But it was too late. The Zephyrian fleet was already trapped within Earth's influence. The moment they had entered the solar system, they had been exposed to Earth's defenses. Every breath of air, every drop of water, every surface they touched carried the planet's microscopic warriors. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien retreat from his command center. Around him, his staff monitored the situation with calm professionalism. They had seen this before, though never on such a large scale. "Sir," Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez said, "the enemy fleet is trying to withdraw, but their engines are failing." "Expected," Jake replied. "Earth's defenses don't just target living tissue. They adapt to attack any foreign technology, metal, plastic, computer systems. If it doesn't belong here, the planet will find a way to destroy it." General Nina Walsh's voice came through from the European Space Agency. "Jake, we're tracking massive biological activity across all continents. Every ecosystem on Earth is contributing to the defense." "What's the timeline?" Jake asked. "Based on previous incidents, the alien fleet will be completely neutralized within 72 hours. Any survivors will be changed." Commander Alan Foster joined the conversation from Australia. "The Southern Hemisphere monitoring stations show the same patterns. The planet is coordinating a unified response. It's like watching a single organism defend itself." Admiral Thexmore received the medical reports with growing horror. His crews were being killed by diseases that evolved faster than their immune systems could adapt. Their ships were being consumed by organisms that ate metal and disrupted electronic systems. His proud fleet was dying, ship by ship, crew by crew. "Sir," his chief medical officer reported, "the biological agents are not random. They're specifically designed to target our species, our biology, our technology, our weaknesses. It's as if this planet studied us before we even arrived." "How is that possible?" Thexmore demanded. "I don't know, sir, but the evidence is clear. These organisms know exactly how to kill us." As the Zephyrian admiral watched his fleet crumble around him, he began to understand the terrible truth. Earth was not undefended. It was the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. The planet itself was a weapon, billions of years in the making. Every virus, every bacteria, every microscopic life form had been shaped by endless cycles of evolution and warfare. The dead zone existed not because space was empty, but because anything that threatened Earth simply ceased to exist. The planet consumed its enemies completely, leaving no trace, no warning, no survivors to tell the tale. Admiral Thexmore realized he was about to become another footnote in Earth's long history of defending itself. Another failed invasion that would be forgotten by the galaxy, while Earth continued to appear peaceful and undefended to the next group of would-be conquerors. The trap was perfect, and they had walked right into it. Captain Corden lay dying on the floor of his crashed scout ship in the Nevada desert. His environmental suit had failed completely 3 hours ago. The air he breathed burned his lungs. His skin had turned a sickly purple color, but worst of all, he could feel his mind changing. The humans, he whispered into his communicator, hoping someone in the fleet could still hear him. They knew. They knew what would happen. Dr. Helen Davis sat beside him, still taking notes on her scanner. She had been monitoring his decline with scientific interest. Captain, can you tell me what you're experiencing for our records? Corden tried to focus his failing eyes on her face. You planned this. Your world is not what it appears to be. No, Dr. Davis agreed. It's not. Earth is 4.5 billion years old, Captain. Life has existed here for most of that time. Do you know what 4 billion years of evolution creates? What? Corden's voice was barely a whisper. Perfection. The perfect biological defense system. Every threat that has ever existed on this planet has been met, studied, and eliminated. Earth learns from everything that tries to harm it. Colonel, Steve Parker stood nearby, watching the alien die. He felt no satisfaction, only a grim sense of duty. The organisms in your body right now are analyzing your DNA, Captain. They're learning how your species works, how you think, how you fight, how you die. That's impossible, Corden gasped. Is it? Dr. Davis asked. Your people have conquered 12 worlds, haven't you? Each time you studied your enemies first, you learned their weaknesses, you adapted your strategies. Earth does the same thing, but it's been doing it for billions of years. High above them, Admiral Thexmore watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship went dark as their crews succumbed to the planet's biological weapons. His medical officer, Healer Zenka, brought him reports that grew more terrifying with each hour. Admiral, the organisms are not acting randomly, Zenka said. They're coordinated. Every virus, every bacteria, every microscopic life form on this planet is working together. That's impossible, Thexmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sir, I've analyzed the attack patterns. The biological agents are sharing information. When one organism learns how to damage our systems, that knowledge spreads to all the others instantly. It's like fighting a single intelligence that exists across an entire planet. Thexmore looked at his tactical display. Of his original fleet, of 215 ships, only 47 were still operational. The rest were either destroyed or drifting helplessly as their crews died from diseases that had no names. Can we retreat? He asked. No, sir, replied his chief engineer. The organisms have spread to our engines. They're consuming the metal components and disrupting the energy systems. We're trapped. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his command center, watching the alien fleet's final moments. Around him, his staff coordinated with allies around the world. The defense of Earth was a global effort, though most of the work was being done by the planet itself. Status report, Jake said to Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. 47 enemy ships still showing signs of life, Amy replied. But their power levels are dropping rapidly. Estimated time until complete neutralization is 18 hours. General Nina Walsh's voice came through from Europe. Jake, we're seeing something interesting. The biological agents are not just attacking the aliens, they're studying them, learning from them. Learning what? Jake asked. Everything. Their technology, their biology, their tactics. When this is over, Earth will know more about the Zephyrian Empire than the Zephyrians know about themselves. Commander Alan Foster joined the conversation from Australia. The same thing happened during the Centauri incident 20 years ago, and the Andromedan probe 15 years before that. Each time, Earth learned something new. Jake nodded. Few people knew about those earlier encounters. The governments of Earth had worked hard to keep them secret. The world was not ready to know that alien species had been trying to conquer their planet for decades. And failing. Always failing. Sir, Amy said quietly. Do you think the aliens understand what's happening to them? Some of them are starting to, Jake replied. The smart ones anyway. Captain Corden understood. As his body failed and his mind began to fade, the terrible truth became clear. Earth was not a planet with life on it. Earth was a living thing itself, a single vast organism that had been perfecting its defenses for eons. "Dr. Davis," he whispered, "how many others have tried to conquer your world?" "Hundreds," she replied, honestly. "Maybe thousands, we don't keep exact records. Most attempts never make it past the outer solar system. The few that do, well, you've seen what happens." "The dead zone," Corden said with sudden understanding. "That's why no one comes here, not because the space is empty, because everyone who tries disappears." "Now you understand," Dr. Davis said. "Earth doesn't just defend itself. It eliminates threats completely. No survivors, no witnesses, no warnings to send back to the home worlds. But some of us will escape," Corden said. "Some ships will survive to tell the galaxy what happened here." Dr. Davis shook her head sadly. "No, Captain, they won't. The organisms are already spreading to every ship in your fleet. By the time this is over, there will be nothing left but empty hulls drifting in space, and even those will be consumed eventually." Admiral Thexmore received the final reports from his dying fleet. The biological agents had evolved beyond anything his scientists could understand. They were now attacking the very atoms that made up Zephyrian technology. Metal turned to dust. Computer systems simply stopped working. Life support failed across the entire fleet. "Admiral," Healer Zenka said, "I need to tell you something. The organisms, they're not just killing us. They're changing us. Some of the crew members who died first, they're still moving. But they're not Zephyrian anymore." "What are they?" Thexmore asked. "I don't know. Something new. Something that serves Earth instead of fighting it." The Admiral felt a chill of absolute terror. "You mean the planet is converting our people? Converting? Consuming? Studying? I can't tell the difference anymore. All I know is that Earth is learning everything about us. Our weaknesses, our strengths, our technology, our biology. When this is over, Earth will be able to create weapons specifically designed to destroy our entire species." Thexmore looked around his bridge. Half his crew was already dead. The other half was dying. His proud flagship, the greatest warship in the Zephyrian Empire, was being eaten alive by microscopic organisms that rewrote the laws of physics as they consumed it. "Send a message to the homeworld," he ordered. Tell them to never come here. Tell them Earth is not what it seems. Tell them." But before he could finish, his communication systems failed. The organisms had reached the ship's core systems. Within minutes, Admiral Thexmore and his entire crew were dead. Their knowledge, their memories, their fears all became part of Earth's vast biological database. Captain Corden's last thought was a warning he would never be able to send. Earth was not just defended, it was predatory. The planet had allowed his species to approach, had let them land, had even welcomed them. All so it could study them completely before destroying them. The perfect trap. The perfect hunter. The perfect weapon. And somewhere in the depths of space, other alien civilizations continued to see Earth as an undefended world, ripe for conquest. They had no way of knowing that they were looking at the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. A predator that had been waiting patiently for billions of years, waiting for its next meal. 3 ships escaped from Earth's solar system. Only 3 out of the mighty fleet of 215 vessels that had arrived with such confidence. They limped through space, their hulls scarred and their crews dying from diseases that had no cure. Commander Vextar sat alone on the bridge of his damaged vessel. He was the only survivor from his original crew of 47. The others had died screaming as Earth's biological weapons consumed them from the inside. But Vextar lived, and he carried with him knowledge that would terrify the galaxy. "Computer, begin recording," he said in a voice that shook with fear. "This is Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. I am the sole survivor of the Earth expedition. What I am about to tell you will sound impossible, but every word is true." He paused, looking at his hands. They were changing color, turning the same sickly purple that had claimed his crew. He did not have much time. Earth is not what we thought. It is not an undefended world waiting to be conquered. Earth is a trap, a living weapon that has been perfecting itself for billions of years. Anyone who approaches that planet will die, not quickly, not cleanly. They will be studied, analyzed, and consumed. The recording would reach the Zephyrian homeworld in 6 months, if Vextar survived that long. On the second ship, Captain Morgeth struggled to keep his vessel operational. Half his systems had failed, eaten away by organisms that should not have been able to survive in the vacuum of space. But Earth's weapons were not bound by normal rules of biology. Engineer Colvin, he called to his last surviving crew member, "How long before we reach the communication relay?" 2 days, sir, came the weak reply. But I don't know if our transmitter will last that long. The organisms are spreading through the ship's systems. Morgeth nodded grimly. They had to warn their people. The galaxy had to know what Earth really was, even if it cost them their lives. On the third ship, Healer Zenka worked frantically to understand what had happened to them. She was a scientist as well as a medical officer, and her mind refused to accept what she had witnessed. But the evidence was overwhelming. "The planet is alive," she recorded in her medical log. "Not just covered with life, but actually alive, itself. Every organism on Earth is connected, sharing information, working together. When we attacked, we were not fighting humans. We were fighting an entire world." She looked at the samples she had taken from her dead crew members. The biological agents from Earth had not just killed them. They had learned from them, studied their DNA, their immune systems, their technology. Earth now knew everything about the Zephyrian species. Any future attack on Earth will fail before it begins, she continued. The planet will be ready. It will have weapons specifically designed to kill our people. We cannot win against an enemy that adapts faster than we can fight. Light years away, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The great chamber on the neutral world of Kepler Station held representatives from dozens of civilizations. Ambassador Krelthar of the Andromedans called for order as species after species demanded answers. "The Zephyrian fleet has disappeared," announced Speaker Vorth of the Centauri Coalition. 200 ships gone without a trace. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing. "They went to the dead zone," said Ambassador Krelthar. "We warned them not to go near that region of space." "But why?" demanded General Thok of the Rigel Confederation. "What makes that area so dangerous? Our sensors show nothing but empty space and a few primitive worlds." The older species in the council exchanged worried glances. They remembered stories passed down through generations, tales of exploration fleets that had vanished, of proud civilizations that had sent ships to investigate the mysterious region and never heard from them again. "There are legends," Ambassador Krelthar said carefully. "Stories about worlds in that region that defend themselves. But they are just stories." "Are they?" asked Speaker Vorth. "The Andromedans lost contact with a survey fleet near that region 50 years ago. The Centauri Coalition lost a research vessel 30 years ago. Now the Zephyrians have lost an entire invasion fleet." Back on Earth, President Michelle Ford met with her Security Council in a room deep beneath the White House. The walls were lined with monitors showing data from around the world. Earth's biological systems were slowly returning to normal after their massive coordinated response. "Status. Report," the President said to Secretary of Defense Paul Bennett. "All alien vessels have been neutralized," Paul replied. 3 ships escaped the solar system, but they're carrying Earth's biological agents. They won't survive long enough to reach their home worlds. General Chris Johnson added, "Our monitoring stations confirm that Earth's defensive systems cataloged every aspect of Zephyrian biology and technology. The planet is now immune to any future attacks from their species." "Good," President Ford said. "Any word from Dr. Grant's team?" Dr. Lisa Grant appeared on one of the monitors, speaking from her laboratory in Switzerland. "Madam President, the biological activity is decreasing to normal levels, but the planet has retained all the information it gathered about the aliens. That data has been distributed to every organism on Earth. What does that mean for future threats? The president asked. It means Earth is now better defended than ever before, Dr. Lisa replied. The next time someone tries to attack us, the planet will be ready from the moment they enter our solar system. Commander Vextar died 3 days before his ship reached the communication relay, but his automated systems continued transmitting his warning message across the galaxy. The signal spread from world to world, carrying news that would change everything. Captain Morgeth managed to reach the relay before his ship's systems failed completely. With his last breath, he transmitted everything he had recorded about Earth's defenses. The message joined Vextar's warning, spreading across space at the speed of light. Healer Zenka survived the longest. She reached the outer colonies of the Zephyrian Empire before the biological agents finally claimed her. But she had transmitted her medical data to every research station along the way. Her scientific analysis of Earth's weapons would terrify alien biologists for generations to come. The Galactic Council received the warnings and fell silent. The truth about Earth was more horrible than their worst nightmares. The small blue world that looked so peaceful and undefended was actually the most dangerous place in the galaxy. We must declare the entire region forbidden, Ambassador Krelthar said finally. No ships, no probes, no contact of any kind. Agreed, said Speaker Vorth. The dead zone will remain dead to us all. And so, the galaxy learned to fear a small world in the outer spiral arm. Earth became the subject of whispered stories and dire warnings. Parents would tell their children about the planet that ate spaceships and the creatures called humans, who lived on a world too dangerous for civilized beings to approach. But Earth itself remained unchanged. From space, it still looked peaceful and undefended. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents, beautiful and inviting. A perfect trap for the next species that thought they could conquer the defenseless little world. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his office, looking up at the stars through a reinforced window. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez brought him his evening coffee, a routine they had maintained for years. Sir, she said quietly, do you think they'll spread the word? Will other species stay away now? Jake smiled and took a sip of his coffee. For a while. But eventually some young species will decide the stories aren't real. They'll think they're smarter than the others. They'll see Earth as an easy target. And then Earth will teach them the same lesson it's been teaching for billions of years, that this planet doesn't just defend itself, it hunts. Outside the window, the stars sparkled innocently in the darkness. But Jake knew the truth. Somewhere out there, other civilizations were looking at Earth and making plans, planning to conquer the undefended world, planning their own destruction. Earth waited patiently as it always had, the perfect predator disguised as helpless prey, ready to welcome its next visitors with open arms and microscopic teeth.